Hello and welcome back to the Joyful Soul Creates. Today I'm going to bring you the first of my Halloween card series. I actually hoped to get this out a little while ago, but better late than never. For this video I'm going to be showing you how to do some acrylic block stamping, and here is an example card I made recently with this technique, as well as a couple of backgrounds using the technique, and I'm going to show you how I did that today. So what you need is an acrylic block and either Distress Oxides or Distress inks, both will work, and I think actually any water-based ink would work. For my first example I'm going to use some Distress Oxides, and I'm going to use squeezed lemonade, wild honey and worn lipstick. The two yellowy panels that I showed a moment ago were made with squeezed lemonade and wild honey, and one was a second generation impression. I didn't do any second generation impressions in this video because actually I felt they didn't work as well as I would have liked, but that is a possibility if you feel you have enough ink left over on your block. So I'm starting by putting the lightest colour, which is the squeezed lemonade, onto the block, and then the wild honey in the centre and the worn lipstick to the other end. You can use any size or shape block you have for this. I only have rectangular blocks, and this is actually the smallest one I have. I don't really use acrylic blocks much, as I generally use my Misty. Once you have the colours down, you will want to spritz them with some water. My water has perfect pearls in it, but that's not necessary for the technique. So you just want to spritz it to get the ink moving a little, and then take a panel of watercolour paper. My paper is actually mixed media paper because I picked up the wrong pad, but it works as well, and lay the acrylic block ink side down onto the paper. I then also placed a couple more blocks on top of it just to weigh it down a bit more, and then let that sit for a little while for the water to absorb into the paper. I didn't time how long I let mine sit for, but I'd give it a couple of minutes at least, and I think the ink will absorb more the longer you let it sit, so you will get a different look depending how long you leave it. Once you're happy with how long you've left it, you can just peel the block back up and take it off. And here I had a section that didn't quite get the ink as well as the other areas, so I'm just painting the ink in with a water brush and some of the leftover ink from the block. You wouldn't have to do that, it's not really necessary for the technique, I just decided that's what I wanted to do. Here I'll show you another colour combination, again with Distress Oxides, and I'm going to use Cracked Pistachio, Mermaid, Lagoon and Lucky Clover for this one. And I started with the Cracked Pistachio in the middle just because I felt like that's the lightest colour and it's best to put your lightest colour down first. My acrylic block has lines on it, which helps me to see if I want to get roughly even areas. I can see that using the lines on the block, but again that's not necessary. You can quite easily eyeball it, and also you don't have to make them even if you don't want to. So again I'm going to spritz it with my water and perfect pearls, and you can already see how the Lucky Clover is moving through the Cracked Pistachio here. I'll turn that over and place it onto another piece of the watercolour paper, and then add the blocks on top and let it sit for a couple of minutes. I find it best to kind of open it like a book, so in the direction of the ink stripes, because as you peel it up the loose watery ink will move with it, and if you're opening it on the short edge in this case, then you will be dragging the different colours of ink through your stripes, if that makes sense, which could muddy your colours if you're not careful, so I find it easier to open on the long edge. Again, I had some areas that weren't quite as inky as I would have liked, and this time I think I hadn't left it as long, so I had more wet areas, so I'm just using my brush to bring those out and cover the areas that didn't have as much ink. And here you can see how that looks, and I think that kind of looks like an abstract outdoor scene with the sky at the top going down into the grass. I will use the Mermaid Lagoon again on my next combination, which is a blue combination. So that's Tumbled Glass, Mermaid Lagoon and Stormy Sky. I think actually I should have done the Stormy Sky next to the Tumbled Glass. Those two inks are new to me and I'm not entirely familiar with the combination, so I think I got them in the wrong order, but it doesn't really matter that much because they're the same colour family, so they'll blend nicely anyway. Again, spritz with water, and the more water you spray with, the more movement you will get, but also if you spray with too much water, you may find it gets oversaturated, and when you turn it over it will drip and just be a bit more difficult to work with. So I think it's best to experiment and see what works best for you. Here again, I'm dragging out the wet leftover ink to fill in any gaps in my colour, and I think this background would be nice for a sky or a sea background with those blue colours. And it would be fun to do this technique with different shapes. You could maybe make a panel with several different colour combinations on if you were using a small block, for example. There's lots of different ways you could approach this. Next, I'm going to make a 2 colour combination one. So you don't have to do 3 colours, you could maybe do more colours if you wanted, but it will depend on the size of your block, and also you want to make sure they're not going to get muddy if they run into each other. So here I'm using the Distress inks instead of the Distress Oxide, and I have spiced marmalade and tea dye, and you can see these don't give as much obvious coverage to the block, but the ink is there. I will spritz it again just as I did with the Distress Oxides, and turn it over and place it on my paper, and then put the other blocks on top and weigh it down whilst it does its work. And I think I left this one the longest of all of them because I was doing something else whilst it was sitting. This one, the paper did actually warp a bit underneath the in the tea dye section. I don't know if that's because of the amount of water I'd used. I don't think it's just because of being Distress ink instead of Distress Oxide. I think it's either the amount of water or just because I'd left it so long. So here are the panels. These are the Wild Honey and Squeezed Lemonade that I made before. This is the one with that colour combination plus 1 lipstick. Then we have the blue-green combo, the blue combo and the orange combo, as well as the one I had previously made, which was Seedless Preserved, Milled Lavender and Spun Sugar. And then I'm going to trim all my panels down. I haven't given measurements for these panels purely because it will depend what size block you use and how you want to approach trimming them. What I did was I measured how wide the smallest white edge around the panel area was, which will vary from panel to panel depending where you placed it, and then I trimmed the other edges to match that. So I think on this one it was about 1.5 centimeters. So I trimmed all the other edges to be 1.5 centimeters. So there's a white border all around the block area of 1.5 centimeters. And then you just want to embellish them with an image or icon of some sort. So here is the first one I made with that Distress ink background. I thought it looked like a kind of spooky sky, so I decided to add a house from the Simon Says Stamp Creepy Cute stamp set. I stamped the house on black and embossed first with white embossing powder, and then I embossed again over the white with this glow-in-the-dark embossing powder. You can kind of see how it glows. So the house will glow in the dark. I then fussy cut it out, and I adhered it to the panel and also added a sentiment in black, which is from the Love from Lizi stamp set I showed. And I also added a few Nuvo drops in ebony black to finish off the card. The second card I made with the Squeezed Lemonade and Wild Honey panel, and I'm using a die for my image on this one. This is the cat die, which is also from Simon Says Stamp and coordinates with the Creepy Cute stamp set. All the products are linked in the description box down below. And the sentiment I used is from this same Creepy Cute stamp set. There is some warping to the panels, so just be aware of that when you're adhering them down and take that into account with the kind of adhesive you use. I chose double-sided tape for mine. I find that works best. And I finished that second card off with some ebony black Nuvo drops. For my third card, I actually miscut the panel, so I ended up trimming all the white off and just having the black border, but I think that works. I again used the Creepy Cute stamp set, and I used the pumpkin, which I ink blended with spiced marmalade, Distress ink, and fussy cut out. I added some of the bats from Creepy Cute as well as a sentiment from the Love from Lizi stamp set. And then as well as the ebony black Nuvo drops, I added some in ripened pumpkin, which is the orange. I just thought that would bring in a bit more of the orange on the card. So that's the third card I made. So here you can see all the different cards and backgrounds I made. I still have several of the backgrounds left. I'd love to know which of these cards you liked most, and if you comment down below and tell me which one you liked most, you could win that card. I will give away all 3 of these cards, so just leave a comment saying which one you would like to win. You could also let me know if there was one of the other backgrounds you'd like to see me create something with, or for example what you would like to see in the next Halloween video or any other video. Just let me know by the 19th and I will choose a winner, or 3 winners, 1 for each card, after that date. So that completes the first Halloween video of this series. I hope you enjoyed this technique and I'd love to see what you do with it, so you could tag me on social media if you create with this technique. You can find all my social media and blog links down below, along with the product description list. If you enjoyed this video, please do hit the like button to let YouTube know that my videos are worth watching, and you can also subscribe to make sure you don't miss any of my future videos. There are a couple of other videos on screen that you may enjoy, and I will see you next time. Bye!